Yeah, everything around me. What's going on, everybody? It's Coach Tatum here with the next episode of the Coaches Preview. I'm here with Coach Philip Russ. He's the head football coach at East Rutherford High School here in North Carolina. Coach, I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us.
Hey, always a pleasure to get to work with you.
Heck yeah. So, Coach, talk to us a little bit about you. For people that might not know who you are, where'd you come from, where's your background in coaching, and led you all the way up here to where you are now?
Got you. So basically, I grew up in Cleveland County, which is like a mecca for high school football in the state of North Carolina. Played at Burns under Ron Green. Had an opportunity to play college football. Went and played under Chip Hester at Catawba College. Played there for a couple of years. Had an opportunity to coach during a medical red shirt. Got to link up with Joe Pinion at Salisbury High School. Was fortunate enough to be a part of his staff in 2010. We won the 2A West Regional and 2A State Championship, beat Northeastern up near the Virginia line in North Carolina, but really got to soak up a lot around some high quality guys during that time. One to think of right off the gate that I just saw recently was J.K. Atkins. He took his team to the state championship this year. And he's doing a great job there. He was our OC at the time. But there was great guys there. Get me, my feet wet in coaching. Was able to finish my degree. Then I moved to West Lincoln, which is a 2A school in Lincoln County under Tom Sane. And Coach Sane was just very instrumental in giving me an opportunity across the whole board. Because at Salisbury, I was with the defensive line, special teams coordinator. When I moved back home, first teaching job, got the chance to be JV offensive coordinator, JV head coach. And then on varsity, I was working, with the offensive line there. And during my tenure there, I kind of got to flop between both sides of the ball, find what worked, what didn't work, a lot of opportunities, and really valued my time at West Lincoln. Had a chance then to move to the eastern part of North Carolina, got to work under Brian Remp at Jack Britt High School. And had a great opportunity there. Was there for 1 year. Met a lot of good coaching friends. Justin Grant-Netti's one to speak of really highly. He's worked with USA Football, pouring in for him. He came down from New York, was at Pace. So getting to learn from him, kind of the air raid concept mentality. And then, meeting some guys that were in the military and getting that kind of poured in. My godfather, Pat Stevenson, was a retired lieutenant colonel. He had he had three amazing athletes come through his family. All three of his sons played big time football. But getting to be around those guys and Coach Remp, he played for the Ravens and then obviously was from the ECU pool. So he had a lot of experience that kind of landed me back home. My first ever head coaching job was actually in baseball. My background in baseball, growing up, playing, won a state championship as a player for Bobby Dale Reynolds in Post 100. So my first nod at a head coach getting to run a program was with baseball. But what I value the most for that from football was the roster was smaller, the fundraising scheme was smaller, the organization. So it built up an admin type mentality for me to understand how to organize your program, build you a booster club, get things formatted that way and lead and do things. Then I was able to work with Larry Boone. And he was an outstanding coach of the triple option. So kind of took me back a little bit to the Salisbury days. So I went through, triple, the single wing at West Lincoln, then kind of like spread, air raid down at Jack Britt. Then after that, was able to move to Florida. Was in Florida for 2 years at a 9A high school there. Really just an assistant offensive coordinator there, just kind of helping, scheme some things there. Had a great Josh Watkins was an outstanding head coach. And he replaced behind a guy that's coaching in college. Jamar Chaney was at Florida, then he was at Mississippi State, then back to Florida. Now he's at Western Kentucky. But Coach Chaney turned it over to Coach Watkins. I met a lot of great friends there. One of the guys that was really instrumental in friendship and a roommate for me when I was down there was Trey Page. He's now working on Troy University staff, coaching football. Another guy that was down there was Joe Hawkins. Me and Coach Hawk worked together with the offensive line, and we really just pieced that together. And while I was in Florida, I was also a head baseball coach. So 9A school, 3,600 kids, really interesting piece down there, and everybody's got D1 guys. There was one night we were lining up, and I was like, man, I feel pretty good. We got 4 linebackers that were spread out across, from PWOs and walk-on opportunities and scholarship guys that we had a kid go to Mississippi State. And they were like, yeah, but you got to look at what you're facing. And across the board, I'd never been in North Carolina. You don't look over and see a Florida State quarterback throwing to a Miami receiver with TCU, tight end. It just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Had a great opportunity there. Had some family get sick. Had an opportunity to move back home. When I came home, I had several opportunities. Had friends that worked at Gaffney High School in South Carolina. Had friends that were in administration in Gaston County at Forest View. Kind of came in, had 2 quick interviews with Gaffney and Forest View. Kind of had those on the ledger. And one of my friends, which was Coach Sain's daughter, called and said, "Hey, we need a head coach. We need an AD. You said you always want to be an AD. East Rutherford's wide open. Let me talk to my principal." And pretty much the shoe fit. I mean, I came in, met the administration, met the staff, but at the time they had just interviewed a guy that they thought was going to be the head coach. So I was like, sure. And they were like, "We're going to be defensive coordinator." I'm like, man, I've always been on the offensive side of the ball. Last time I did defense was at Salisbury.
Yeah.
So I fell in, was DC for a year, and pretty much just waited it out. Some things happened, and they moved from our head coach. They came to me and was like, "What is the best option?" I said, "Well, we need to find an interim. We got to find a good guy coming in, build culture, build this thing back up, go in the right direction." And they were like, "All right, cool. You're the interim." It fell in. Everything. I'm a big believer in my Lord Jesus Christ, and God really lines things up. Sometimes you just got to be faithful and trust His pattern, His plan. And things just lined up, and it was a good match. And the kids and me really, really linked up, and we had a lot of fun. And so we've just kind of been building there from, since I landed that interim job. This Christmas was made official, the guy, so to speak, and I was able to kind of build a staff. And so we're kind of chugging right along now, and it's a good fit for us.
So how does that kind of work? You being the AD, and then they kind of because the principal's like, "Hey, you're going to be the guy," and now hire yourself, or how does that work being the AD as well?
So if you want the honest truth, I was actually umpiring a state tournament. I was down in Smithfield, North Carolina. I get the first phone call as I'm driving down. He's like, "Where you at?" And I was like, "I'm passing through Chapel Hill trying to get to Smithfield." And he was like, "All right, cool." He's like, "I think I'm making a move in the football." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, we're on break. It's a dead period." He's like, "I'll talk to you later. I'm milling through some things and just trying to find some good fit." And he can't call me back when I got to the hotel. And he was like, "I'm asking you as an AD, don't think of it as a football thing." He said, "What do we need to do if we move?" And I said, "Well, at this point, you're already after the coach's clinic." I said, "You're not going to land a hire that's going to be quality enough for our kids." I said, "Really, you need to roll with somebody that you feel comfortable with as an interim to give it a year to let the coaching carousel set its foot, the footing around January. And then maybe we'll find somebody that we really need to kind of be the flagship for the program." He said, "Cool, I'll call you back." It was probably the next day he called and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know it's not went public. This is what we're doing. We're going to go with an interim." And I was like, "Outstanding." He was like, "And it's you." So what we want to do, he said, as an interim, we're going to have to go through the interview process, but I really feel like you're a good fit and you're on staff and you know what we need to do. And he's like, "I've got a couple other people that are going to interview for this. So I just want you to know, like, I would like you to want to do it, but let's go through the process the right way." I said, "Sure, no problem." So I was like, "I would like to do it in person." So we kind of got a Zoom meeting set up. He would, in support of some of the guys that were on staff at the time that actually applied for it. He's like, "I'm not going to tell you as the AD who's applying. I've got 5 interviews set up. We're going to go through that. It may be a 2-3 part interview." Sure, no problem. So the first one started out, it was like, "What's your defensive philosophy, DC?" And so I kind of went through what, I thought that was good for our kids, not what I want to run, but more or less like what fits our kids. Like what is something that would make us stronger, better, and put us in better position to win. He went offensive philosophy, everything like that. And he was like, "All right, thank you for your time, coach." Hung up. Didn't hear nothing. Go through, umpire a whole series, come back. Next interview is like, "Hey, you made it second. We've got it down to 2 candidates. Want to ask you some questions, organization." And then it went into like boosters, admin, things like that. What do you see? What do you want to see happen here? 3 to 5, whatever, those plans. And I laid it all out and treated it very seriously, like it was a real interview, just like I didn't have a job. I waited and he asked us to meet with me Sunday. It was like around lunchtime is when I would be back in town. We met at the school. At that time, he presented me an offer as the interim. At that time, I called my wife. She met me at the school. We started cleaning up the coach's office and organizing the equipment room. We pretty much mopped down, cleaned up everything in the locker room and the weight room. And we showed up on Monday with the expectation of, man, I hope we don't have the numbers that they were having when I was gone. And that Monday, we were told to expect anywhere between 15 and 18, and the kids had heard that I was there. We had 42 show up.
Wow.
So it went from 18 to 42 in a day. But we hit the ground running. Now you got to remember that was literally we had 1 week of workouts. The next week was the start of the season, and it's time to roll a defense. And I transitioned. I was like, I'm gonna be the OC. I got a guy that I feel like could carry the DC for this interim year. We've got to instruct. So we would lift, and we went out and did walkthroughs and tried to put in a playbook. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable with my playbook till probably week 5 because we were still every week. It was like, all right, what do we need to get in? All right, let's go zone, power, trap. And that'll be the 3 running things that we try to learn right now to get these guys in the best foot forward concept. So, that's kind of where it went. As an AD, it was very weird because I'd already hired some folks and I already dismissed some folks, and I was a part of the admin team. And it was weird sitting across from the admin team and like, okay, now I'm going to interview with you for something that I think I want.
Yeah. So then, you are, they take the interim off and you're rocking and rolling, you fill out a staff, and just from an outsider's perspective, seeing what you guys are doing on social media, and y'all hosted a clinic for youth coaches, and y'all are doing these camps, stuff like that. Like, y'all have it rolling, and I'm super excited to see where y'all are going to be headed. Talk about a little bit more. Let's transition back to like philosophy stuff, and not really X's and O's, but like you as a coach, you as a person. What do you stand on core philosophy wise? I don't know. Do you have like a slogan? Do you have an acronym, stuff like that, or what are some things you want to stand on as a coach, and what do you want your program to be?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like, you come in my office, you can borrow a book. I think as an AD, I've handed out more books, but really it's for my coaching philosophy. Probably somebody that jumped out really off gate for me that kind of related the most was PJ Fleck. Watching, we sent a kid from Salisbury up there that played. Keon Adams went and played at Western Michigan when he was flipping that program, and then watching him transition to Minnesota. And there was something that just stuck out to me is, like I said, my core beliefs, it falls back on my faith and my walk with Christ. And so like, I got to thinking like, I want to be what my high school coach was for me. I want to have a relationship. I want a relational basically exchange. So many coaches that I've worked with or that I was coached by, they were very transactional. What are you going to give skill wise to make us better? It wasn't like there was the investment felt very small sometimes. And I watched that, and I watched, the whole concept, once I was in my devotionals and everything like that, the thing that kept jumping up was love. And I thought, all right, we're going to build this whole thing. Everything that I'm going to do is built around love, because number one, kids know that you love them. They're going to go through a wall for you. They will fight that extra inch. They'll go that extra yard. They'll take that contact, fight through contact for you in any sport or do anything for you if they truly feel, because you fight for things you love. And so one thing that PJ Fleck always said was family. Forget about me. I love you. And I started thinking on that, and I prayed over it, and I really started studying what he does in his program. And it aligns with like Dabo Swinney, and it aligns with Shane Beamer, and it aligns with like the now later in life, Mac Brown, some of these guys, when you're starting to piece it together. And then I go back to what I thought about made it so special at Catawba with Coach Hester and my position coach, Coach Hunter, and Coach Hepler. Like, everything there was relational. Like, they loved us. And I thought, I started trying that out. And I'll be honest with you, it's so funny to watch new hires in my program because the kids are okay with it. Like, hey, man, I love you. All right, love you too, coach. And it's just, I want them to go home. Every day they're going to leave my program. I love them in the morning when they get there. I love them when they leave. And it basically, it chops it up. Like, I might get in that butt, chew you out because you just messed up what I feel like is your ceiling. I'm trying to elevate that ceiling every day. So when I get after it and I get on them, the thing was, I heard coaches always say, you got to be a missionary coach sometimes. your DCOC gets on them real hard as a position coach, go get your missionary time. Go love up your guys. Say, hey, man, that guy really ain't after you today. He just has expectations. He wants to kind of build on that, and he wants to hold you accountable, son. So I was like, no, I'm just going to start from the top. As a head coach, I'm going to start saying that to the kids. I love you. I care about you. Tell me what's going on. I try to like meet the kids in the middle, because I share at a small 2A, and you know this from your school, we share athletes with everybody.
Yeah.
And I want the baseball coach to know, hey, man, I got your back. I'll be at ball games. It ain't just because I'm an AD. Hey, man, I made a daggone poster and stood at a band concert where they were playing to their families and said, hey, Coach Russ loves the band, because daggone on Friday nights, sometimes you need that vibe from those guys. I show up when they have the cheer camp. They bring those college people in. I bump in there on the cheerleaders. Hey, I need you smiling, loud, proud, hair and updo, whatever you need to do. Y'all are important to our football team. The same thing. I've always been a big believer in, like, my daddy gave me a great piece of advice when I started teaching. He said, 2 people you got to take care of. Well, 3 people, actually. He said, take care of your cafeteria ladies because they're going to take care of you. Take care of your janitors because they're going to keep it clean and they know the dirt on everybody. And number 3, take care of your financial secretary because she cuts the checks. You take care of those 3 people and they're going to take care of you. And so I've never had, like, I'm bigger and better than everybody. Like, I'll pick up the trash in the locker room. I'll scrub a toilet. I'll wash the uniforms. I believe in family and I believe in love. And when I'm saying about new hires in the program, like every new hire coach I have, like, hey, man, I'll see you tomorrow, coach. Love you, man. And they're like, yeah, you too. It starts out real dry. It's like, yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Now it's like we dapping and hugging. It's like, I love you, man. I love you too, coach, because it's genuine. It's not just a phrase for me. Like, I truly love my coaches. I ask them to bring their families around. If their wives come and they're at practice, I go up and I talk to their wives like I talk to them. Hey, man, thank you for sharing your husband with me and for these kids, man. It's a blessing to have you out here. I've got coaches that have little kids. I got, my defensive line coach just had a little boy. Mama brings him and they sit and watch, and I take pictures with them. I mean, because these are memories. And these fathers are taking time from their homes. These husbands are leaving their wives and coming and pouring in somebody else's kid. And a lot of times there's not enough money in the world that you can pour back in those guys. I can't buy them enough gear. I can't, push enough towards them for their time. But in our program, I really believe in that family slogan, forget about me. Because if you make sports, if you make your position group, if you make your team and your kids and coaches are all about me mentality, we lose the team concept, and we're not trying to go somewhere together. I don't want 15 people along the banks of the river watching the boat go down the river with the 11 on offense, 11 on defense, because that little dude that's over there that tears your nerves up as an OC that plays scout team linebacker is just as important as that 1,000-yard running back. They all fit together. And the way, I'll be honest, this past year in JV, we won 3 games. Varsity, we won 1 game. When my head coach, my principal and my whole admin team came out to practice that last week, they brought an FCA guy. There were some people in the community trying to see what we were doing. And they're like, my gosh, it looks like August. They're flying around. There's music. Everybody's having fun. And I told them, you build the program away from the record. Record will take care of itself once we get to a certain point. Yep. But they're having fun. They're with their brothers. They're with their coaches. There's a bond that's been built. There's a relationship. There's accountability. And when you love people, people want to be around you. And so that's just all really how we focused and build our whole philosophy. We do have days when we get angry at each other and we get frustrated, but at the end of the day, we all hugging it out. We love each other. Nobody leaves mad. I don't believe going home being mad. I don't believe putting them in a car upset. We got a kid that's visible, that's upset, teary-eyed on a game night. Hey, man, I've sat till 12, 1 in the morning with a kid in the locker room. You're not driving home crying. Like, I'm going to make sure you're good, because at the end of the day, I care more about what you're going to be as a man when you leave my program. You're a future husband, you're a future father, future grandfather, and a productive citizen in whatever degree or job you choose to go to. And it's bigger than football. And I think sometimes that's where it's went skewed in the world, is we teach and we prep and we try to go for the title every year. And yeah, that's what we want to do. But at the end of the day, there's only one state champion in every classification. We still graduate young men. We still have guys going to college, going to military, going to workforce. And I want the world to change for my future kids. So the only way I'm going to do is just influence the ones that I get to have under my care during my time as the head coach.
No doubt. Coach, you got me fired up over here. I'm going to lie to you. Like, I'm over here like, heck, go East Rutherford. Like, and I say this to a lot of guys, like, on Score Stream after every game, I check the scores around the state. Y'all are definitely on my saved schools. Like, there's no way y'all going 1-9 with the much – momentum y'all building and the love y'all have for each other. And, like you said, when they know that you love them, they're going to go 100%. And they're going to grind. And there's no way that y'all are going to have the same season as last year because it's not going to happen. So I love what y'all are doing. It's awesome. Talk about how spring went in your mind and kind of like overview of the program going into the summer.
So basically, our spring, and I'm going to tell you, I went about this thing completely backwards. Our season ended. We knew we weren't in the playoffs because our bye week's the week before playoffs. So right there, right at Halloween, I was like, all right, dude, everybody in the weight room, we're maxing out. And I said, from this point until spring football, we do not talk football. We come in here, we're going to buy in. I hired a strength and conditioning coach. I said, you and Coach Hallman are going to be like peanut butter and jelly. I said, we don't ask to get a football out. You can do that on Saturdays, do it, get a trainer, do whatever you want to do. We are going to focus on changing our bodies and getting ready for football. And so pretty much from Halloween, spring, it was just all about it because what I wanted, the secret to the sauce, and steal it if you want it, is when you sit there and you hammer football, there it takes away and it drains on your excitement. I'm telling you, the week out of spring ball, I made a little graphic, put it on the TV, had it scrolling. The kids looked up and said, wait a minute, 10 days till spring practice? Man, they were chomping at the bit. We had like 42 to 43 at spring practice. And when I tell you day one, like when we went out there, we have, it, coach, like they always screw up the jumping jacks. You get out there, they can't spell the school name right. They can't spell, you just try to minimize. Dude, they were loud and excited over the music. I was like, who is this? And we went out and we just started rolling. We focused a lot on install because obviously I hired a new offensive coordinator, hired a new defensive coordinator, and they bring a wealth of knowledge. Coach Searcy was at Polk County. He was at Asheville. Coach Radford, he has a great concept and philosophy on the offensive side. Coach Ray, we got from Crest High School. He played at Shelby, played at Duke, played for the Chargers a little bit. We rolled him in. He brings a wealth of knowledge defensively. And so they just got in there and started pouring on kids. And then we just started throwing bags out there and made it competitive. We fell in there, trusted the spring rules, knew they were going to be set up. So the way we looked at it, we were like, okay, we're going to have 9 practices. And on the 10th practice, we're going to have a spring like showcase game. We're going to do like a spring game. And I was hyping it up. And the kids were like, hey, we're going to draft. I'm like, no, we're going to do it. We're going to stage it. So we kind of built up leading up because it was a lot of stuff we were throwing at them. And I was a little weary because I was listening. I had, leading up to spring ball, I had meetings with the OC and the offensive staff and then DC and defense staff. Then right before spring ball started, I met with both coordinators. We had a meeting. It was great. And we got out there and we started rolling. And I'm going to be honest, like the kids impressed me with how locked in they were and were learning because the weight room had took them so much further. They first got out there his first couple of days and they liked their new bodies. They liked the new muscle they had built. They had liked to see how it felt. And I was like, man, this thing's starting to look a lot better. Like we're in a good place. And so we led into our spring game. I think we tried to script it. We had about 14 drives built in. We had a running clock. We had built-in quarters. We were going 10-minute quarters. So basically going live for 10 minutes, no contact, just really tagging off stuff. And it was, I went and looked and tried to pull from college football the different scoring metrics. What do you get if you tag off for a TFL or a sack? Because you need to score points because offense, they got to have ways of scoring. So we built that up. And I think the final score defense won like 44-36. Kids had a great time. We brought out I probably had a whole fridge full of freeze pops. We ate popsicles. We danced, had a good time at the end of the game. But what was crazy is football's coming back to our school. A lot of people forget that we 2 years ago just had JV only. Our numbers had gotten so crazy and off. And when I looked down out of the press box, like my father and grandfather came and sat in the press box because I was like, hey, I'm not going to be on the field during the spring game. OC's going to be on one side, DC's on the other. I'm going to be up top running the clock, talking through things through the mic. We wore our headsets and everything. And my dad was like, hey, dude, look below you. And I looked down and there's like 6 bleachers deep. Couldn't find a seat. And there were so many people there watching. And I was like, that's unheard of. It's a spring, like almost like a 7-on-7 tag off scrimmage. We had things set up. Like as a fan, it probably was tough. They just wanted to see the kids and they were cheering. And it was a very cool experience. It was something that leading into this summer phase, we were very excited because we had the kids, they were pumped. We collected the gear, washed it, and they were like, what are you doing, coach? Where's my practice jersey? Hey, we washed it, man. You got to earn that thing this summer to get it back in the fall. So we pieced that up, and we felt very confident. At least in the offensive side, we were probably ahead of schedule by 2 days. Defensively, we had it all in 4 days. So concept wise, I mean, the kids are now we're moving into the summer phase, so we're revisiting things for 7-on-7s and stuff like that. But for the big piece, big picture, I felt good enough after the spring showcase. We could have rolled into August 18th the next day and played a game, and I'd have felt good about our chances and what we were going to put on the field.
Heck yeah. Like that, all of that was that's incredible. Like, especially to see where y'all have come from to now. And it's like, people don't do that. Like, hyping it up and doing like a spring type deal and like that stuff, that's impressive. Like, kids love that stuff. It's stuff that don't matter to most people, but the kids will buy into that and they will love it. And I love that concept. So last question, Coach Ford, I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
So you at our levels, not a lot of hype comes around. Not a lot, a lot of kids get showcased like that. Talk about some guys you've been extremely impressed with from your last from the bye week at the end of the season to now, grinding in the weight room in the offseason stuff. Guys you're going to be leaning on for this fall. Just kind of highlight some of those guys.
Well, I mean, I think the first one jumps off the page for us is we've got a rising junior, Blake McQuillan, and he plays. I mean, I don't know that he comes off the field. I mean, he plays receiver, he plays outside linebacker, he returns kicks, returns punts, he holds the extra point. I mean, he is, and honestly, when the youngin takes his shirt off, I don't know if his anatomy will let him add any more muscle for a young guy.
Yeah.
Like he's squatting 5. He does things that I get worried now. I've never been in that situation where you see a kid get under the bar and you're like, I just tense up because I'm like, man, that is a lot of weight and that frame, like, oh my God. Like, but the leadership, man, like he's absorbed into a more of a, he comes in and everybody starts lifting. He looks like, I've heard the story about McCaffrey and Greg Olsen with the Panthers, and they used to take like an hour to stretch before they ever started warming up. Like this dude comes in, rolls everything out. He takes care of his body. He's very mindful, and he is going to garner a lot of looks, and he's gonna make us better because people are going to have to account for him, especially offensively. But the leadership and the way he's attacked the weight room, and then it transitions on just the defensive side. We got a defensive end in the 25 class, Zaylen Watkins. A lot of schools have been very intrigued by his body build. The kid, he has a tremendous work ethic. I mean, he's going on Saturdays. We've got a couple of LLCs in the area that train kids, and he's always stealing that mentality of like something I thought that kind of jumped out to let me know we were doing the right things is one day we were getting ready this summer. We were doing a lift and offensive line coach took the OL out and he went out there with a notepad. And I was like, what in the crap are you doing? He's taking notes on what we're teaching offensive line because it may benefit him to know, all right, if the defensive line is doing this to these guys and these guys are being coached to do this, I have an idea. And he asked me several times, like, hey, coach, like when you're double team and you're attacking a DN and you do this, like he's putting thought into his drill process, to his work ethic. And so he's growing his game and he's going to be a tremendous support. And then honestly, across the board, I think I've shocked a lot of people because we've kept a good secret at this point. And I hope maybe everybody in my conference don't get to see this YouTube video, but maybe they will. But we're about 6'3", 6'2", probably 260 to 300 pounds across the front. This is one of the biggest, most impressive offensive lines. I mean, you go from left to right, you got Trevor Jenkins. He's 6'3", like 290. You got your left guard. He's 6 foot, 270, and that's Cole Grayson. He's a sophomore. You got a junior center that's like 6'1", probably 260. You got a right guard. Really, there's like a crazy fight right now at right guard because I've got a 6'2", like 260 and a 6'3", 255 fighting for that job. And then right tackle, you got another guy that's 6'2", probably 285 and a 6'3", 250 there. And they're fighting for jobs and it's super competitive. And then in the backfield, like this past year, we started a freshman at quarterback and running back. You got Landon Flynn under center. He's going to all these national things. He's fixing to go to Dallas, Texas to the National Underclassmen Combine. He's been invited to several junior days to go throw balls at a couple of big D1 schools. I mean, he's been on several visits as a young guy. So his metrics line up and all he needs to do is grow. He gets taller, gets a little bit stronger. He's going to find himself well. And then pretty much one of our 3 sport athletes at running back, Brandon Pinkerton. I mean, what impresses me with him is he played football, started as a freshman at running back, which he was starting at free safety, and we moved him over to running back because the dude just has that knack of being elusive and finding a gap. But then he plays basketball and he plays baseball. I mean, he's a three-sport guy, and he loves, and he's compassionate, and he's a fierce competitor. And, so you go across the whole board there. And then, defensive side, probably my most impressive guy that makes everybody like scratch their noggin is I got a 6'2", probably 225 Mike linebacker that's got like 5 or 6 baseball offers, and he's fixing to commit baseball. He's got like a 4.900 whatever GPA, junior Marshall, this and that. I mean, Jordan Dixon is like he's a godsend in his leadership and how he is with the guys, but he's a baseball guy. Like if you talk to him, you talk to his mom, you talk to anybody. I mean, his godfather is the sports guy. He's like in the athletic department down at South Alabama, and we go down every year to the Reese Senior Bowl. And like this past year, Tulane, Southern Miss, South Alabama, all these schools are like, Coach, what's the deal with that kid? And I'm like, hey, a baseball guy. Like you're not getting it. You could offer him, but he's going to play baseball. He's a stud on the diamond. But yeah, like I mean, like you can't speak. I could go down my whole roster because we had guys that literally started as freshmen and sophomores and have that whole year of varsity experience that other people don't get. So like I'm coming into this year with literally only having to replace like 4 pieces from last year that graduated. And now those 4 pieces, they were like reflexive. Like some were personnel grouping stuff with receivers, a linebacker here and there, like one defensive lineman, that's it. But everything else comes back, and we've got it for another 2 years. So we're building, we're trying to, replace and make sure that we've got the big thing is not losing our view of our JV kids. We're trying to really build that. We're not trying to be like a lot of programs, they look past those youngins and they don't pour into them. And I'm like, we played last year varsity with a JV team. Like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine playing the team I put on the field last year, putting them on a JV. We might not lose a ball game. So we're really focusing on building those cats. And if there's anybody else, like off the top of my head, like me and you going to talk next year, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag on those guys because they're so young. I mean, they're rising sophomores. But, don't be shocked if you're a rising sophomore, go for, 200-yard receiving and a couple touchdowns, or making like, having a game with like 15, 16 tackles, a couple sacks, because we've got some very young, talented guys that have bought in, and they're just flying around and having fun right now.
Yeah. Well, Coach, hey, anybody that watches this can see that your energy is genuine. The love for your kids and love for your program is very genuine, and y'all going to be great. Like whether it be this year, next year, or in the future, y'all building it the right way. I love what y'all are doing, and I appreciate you coming on and talking to me a little bit about who you are and your program, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you for what you do, man. Like what this does is this expands the coaching network. I mean, getting to meet up at clinics and stuff. And this is what our sport needs. We got too many people that are like, if you look in the whole dynamic demographic of coaching right now, we don't have the camaraderie that we need. And our state's a little bit behind other states. And I just think that what you're doing, what you do outside of your job duties down there at Walkertown, like you're expanding the game. And I appreciate your friendship and what you do for our sport.
No doubt. Appreciate it, Coach. Let me holler at you later.
All right, man. See you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Everything around me.